There's a strange silence before a warning hits you. You can feel it in your chest before you even hear it. It's not fear. It's that pull inside, that whisper that says, stop. But people don't like stopping, do they? They like testing limits, dancing on the edge, convincing themselves they can handle it. They say things like, just one more time. Just a little longer. It's not that bad. And every time they say it, they step closer to something they won't be able to walk away from. People always think they can get away with it one more time. Just one more step past the line. One more taste of danger. One more lie to themselves. They think they're clever, that they can cheat the system, outsmart the consequence, slip past the edge, and still make it back untouched. But that's the trick. The illusion that the line isn't real. That's how it gets you. The warning always comes before the fall, but people treat it like background noise. They hear it, they feel it, but they keep walking, smiling, pretending it's nothing. That's how they lose everything. By ignoring the voice that tried to save them. You know that feeling in your chest, that uneasy silence that creeps in before something goes wrong. That's not random. That's your signal, your alarm, your last invitation to turn around. But you silence it. You drown it with excuses. You tell yourself, muff, I've done this before, and nothing happened. You treat mercy like it's infinite, like the warnings will always come. But they won't. Sooner or later, that voice gets tired of being ignored. It stops calling your name, and you're left standing in the wreckage, wondering when it all went wrong. The truth is, you always knew. You knew it before it happened. You felt it in your bones. You saw the signs, the patterns, the tension in the air. But you called it overthinking. You told yourself to relax, to have faith, to trust that it would be fine. But faith isn't denial. Trust isn't blindness. When the warning comes, it's not asking for your courage. It's asking for your obedience. You think you're brave for pushing forward, but sometimes real courage means stopping, turning back, admitting that this path isn't safe anymore. That's not fear, that's wisdom. But people don't want wisdom. They want control. They'd rather fall than admit they were warned. There's a certain arrogance in ignoring warnings, a kind of pride that whispers, I'm different, I'll be fine, I can handle it. That's how destruction disguises itself as confidence. You think you're strong enough to flirt with the edge, but the edge doesn't care who you are. It only knows gravity. And gravity never negotiates. The warning is there to keep you from falling, but if you treat it like a joke, it'll watch you fall without blinking. That's not cruelty, it's consequence. The problem is people mistake silence for permission. They think because nothing happened yet, nothing will. But silence isn't approval, it's patience. And patience always runs out. The warning is your grace period. It's the universe saying, this is your last chance to change. But the more you ignore it, the less time you have. The more you pretend you don't hear it, the louder the consequence becomes. Until finally, it doesn't whisper anymore, it roars. And by then, it's too late to turn back. You might think you're fooling everyone, hiding what you're doing, masking your intentions, pretending everything's fine. But the warning doesn't need proof. It sees beyond your excuses. It doesn't care how well you hide it, because it's not watching your actions. It's watching your heart. It knows when you're about to cross a line you can't uncross. That's why the warning feels personal. Because it is. It's customized for your downfall. It's not meant to shame you. It's meant to stop you. But if you keep pretending you don't hear it, eventually, the warning becomes a witness. It stops trying to protect you and starts testifying against you. You ever notice how the first time you do something wrong, it feels heavy? Your heart pounds, your mind races, your conscience screams. But the second time, it's quieter. The third time, quieter still. Until one day, you don't feel it at all. That's how it works. Every time you ignore that inner voice, you teach yourself how to live without it. And once you stop hearing it, you stop being protected by it. That's the true danger, not the act itself, but the silence that follows it. People like to call consequences bad luck. They say, "I don't know why this is happening to me." But deep down they do. The warning wasn't unclear. They just didn't like what it said. The truth was too inconvenient, too limiting, too painful to accept. So they rewrote it. They convinced themselves it didn't apply to them. But the truth doesn't bend. It breaks those who resist it. And by the time they realize the warning was love, it's already turned into judgment. The irony. The ones who ignore the warning always look shocked when the fall comes. They act surprised, confused, betrayed. But there's no betrayal in consequence. There's no trick. The signs were there all along. They just refuse to see them. Because it's easier to believe that life is unfair than to admit that you were told to stop and chose not to. That's the quiet tragedy of it all. People think they're running toward freedom when they're actually walking into chains. So when you feel that tug in your chest, that hesitation before the choice, that whisper that says, "Don't," that's not weakness. That's your last warning. That's the universe, the truth, whatever you want to call it, pulling you back from the edge. You can ignore it if you want. You can convince yourself it's nothing. But once you cross that line, you can't say you weren't warned. Because deep down you always knew. You just didn't listen. You knew it, didn't you? That small whisper inside your head, the one that said, "Don't do it." You tried to silence it, drown it under excuses, laughter and fake confidence. But deep down you heard it. That's not fear. That's not paranoia. That's the warning. The final one. Because when you stand too close to the edge, something inside you starts to shake, not because you're weak, but because some part of you already knows. You're about to lose something you can't get back. It starts small. A decision that feels harmless. A shortcut that seems innocent. A temptation that feels deserved. You think it's no big deal. You convince yourself everyone else is doing it. But that's the trap. The moment you begin reasoning with danger, You've already stepped into its mouth. You think you can control it, but no one ever controls the thing that promises pleasure and hides destruction. There's always a moment right before the mistake, a flash, a breath, a voice inside that says, "Don't." But you ignore it because that voice sounds inconvenient. You tell yourself you'll be careful. You say, "Just this once." You believe you'll stop before it gets bad. That's the lie everyone tells themselves right before they fall. Because sin never looks like sin when it's smiling at you. It looks beautiful. It looks kind. It looks like relief. It shows up when you're tired, lonely, desperate for something to feel good again. It doesn't force its way in. It waits. It studies you. It knows when your guard is down. And that's when it whispers the offer. Just one more time. Just one more try. Just one more taste. And suddenly, what you said you'd never do becomes what you can't stop doing. The warning doesn't come wrapped in thunder or lightning. It comes in silence, in hesitation, in that slight discomfort you feel right before you cross the line. That's how you know. That's how you sense you're being tested. The universe gives you these moments, not to control you, but to save you. But humans, they love to play with the fire, don't they? They see the flames, they feel the heat, and still they reach for it. Because it's glowing, because it looks alive. And when it burns them, they scream. But even then, part of them loves it. Because pain has a strange beauty when you've forgotten what peace feels like. You want to know what makes this warning the last one. It's because sometimes life stops rescuing you. Sometimes, after all the ignored signals, it lets you face what you've been running toward. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Because pain teaches faster than comfort ever could. You'll start losing things. People, opportunities, peace, bit by bit. Until you realize it wasn't the world taking from you. It was you trading everything away for a moment of escape. That's how it happens. You think you're in control, but control is the first thing you lose. And when it's gone, you'll wish you had listened when it was just a whisper instead of a storm. Some warnings aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to shake you awake. Because the thing you're about to do, the choice you're about to make, it's not small. It's not harmless. It carries something you can't see right now. Every wrong turn doesn't start with chaos. It starts with calm. That eerie calm before everything collapses. That's how life works. It gives you silence before the explosion. Stillness before the consequence. And you mistake that silence as approval. You think no one saw it. You think no one knows. But something always does. Something always watches. And when it moves, it doesn't warn twice. You can keep pretending you don't understand, that it's not that serious, that you're just living your life. But the truth is, you've already been told. The message already reached you. This is the final nudge before the fall, the last call before the door closes. You can still turn back. You can still choose differently. But if you walk through that door after hearing this, you won't be able to say, "I didn't know." Because you did. You felt it. and you ignored it. That's why this warning came to find you, not to scare you, but to remind you that silence doesn't mean safety. It means it's your move now. Funny thing about warnings, they don't always come in words. Sometimes they come as chaos disguised as coincidence. Sometimes they come as people walking away, doors closing, or opportunities crumbling, and you think it's bad luck, but it's not. It's protection wearing a mask. You see, the universe doesn't scream when it's trying to save you. It whispers through destruction. You just don't like the tone, so you call it unfair. But deep down, you know what's really happening. You're being pulled away from something you won't survive. Something that would rot you from the inside if you stayed. And the cruel joke, you're fighting the very thing that's trying to keep you alive. You ever notice how you beg for signs? Give me a message, you say. Show me what I should do. And then when the sign arrives, it doesn't look like what you expected. It doesn't come with comfort or clarity. It comes with pain, loss, isolation. Suddenly, the person you trusted turns cold. The plan you built collapses. The thing you thought was meant for you disappears overnight. And you panic. You think you're being punished. But no. You're being redirected. Because not every closed door is rejection. Some doors close because what's behind them would have destroyed you quietly. You think the warning is unfair, but it's mercy in disguise. It's the last attempt to pull you away before the trap snaps shut. But people don't listen to mercy. They listen to noise. They listen to what makes them feel good. They chase comfort like it's oxygen, even when that comfort is killing them. You think the voice in your head saying, "Don't do it," is paranoia, but it's your last link to sanity. It's the final spark of your soul trying to reach you before you're gone. And if you keep ignoring it, if you keep drowning it under excuses and distractions, that voice will go quiet. And that silence, that's when you'll realize what you lost wasn't the opportunity. It was yourself. You see, the warning doesn't always stop you in time. Sometimes it just slows you down long enough to notice the cliff edge before you jump. But not everyone looks down. Some people keep running because they think momentum means progress. But if you're running in the wrong direction, speed just kills you faster. That's what this is. A moment to stop before you accelerate towards something you won't come back from. The universe doesn't waste its breath on the unaware. If you've been feeling uneasy lately, if everything around you suddenly feels off, that's not coincidence. That's the shift. The warning is not a threat. It's an invitation to turn around. Think about it. Everything you've been forcing lately, the relationship, the job, the plan, the image, it's all been fighting you back. Every step feels heavier. Every door feels harder to open. And still you push. You say, "I'll make it work." But what if it's not supposed to work? What if you're trying to resurrect something that's already dead? The warning isn't saying, "You can't have it." It's saying, "You're not meant to have it right now." But ego doesn't like that. Ego wants control. Ego wants results, so it convinces you that patience is weakness and surrender is failure. But the truth is, sometimes letting go is the only way you stop the bleeding. The warning doesn't mean you're cursed. It means you're chosen for something heavier, something that demands a clean slate. But you can't receive what's meant for you while holding on to what's rotting you. That's why everything's falling apart. Not because you're unlucky, but because you're being stripped down to rebuild right. The chaos is not random. It's surgical. It's cutting away what no longer belongs. You just can't see the design yet. You're too close to the pain to notice the precision. Every crack, every loss, every delay, it's timed. It's targeted. It's deliberate. And when you stop cursing it and start listening to it, you'll understand it's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to align you. Most people won't see this moment for what it is. They'll call it bad timing, misfortune, drama. But for you, it's something different. It's your wake-up call. Because there's something in your life right now that doesn't belong in your future. You already know what it is. You've known for a while. You've just been pretending you don't. The warning is clear. The signs are louder now. The question is, how many times do you need to lose before you listen? People always think the warning comes with thunder, that it arrives in lightning bolts, loud voices, and flashing signs. But the truth, it comes quietly. It creeps into your sleep, into your thoughts, into the spaces between your words. It arrives as a strange heaviness in your chest, a gut feeling that something isn't right, a moment where your reflection looks back at you and doesn't quite feel like you. That's the warning, not the chaos that follows, but the silence before it. You feel it, but you ignore it, don't you? Because you want to believe that what you're chasing, what you're doing, what you're holding on to, it's safe. You want to believe the world is kind enough to wait for you to learn the hard way. But it's not. It gives you a few quiet chances to change direction before it starts taking things from you piece by piece. You call it bad luck when the first thing falls apart. You call it betrayal when the second thing breaks. By the time the third thing burns, you're angry at the world. You never stop to ask, maybe the world isn't against me. Maybe it's saving me. Maybe what's falling apart is what's been killing me all along. People always want the lesson to feel gentle, but truth doesn't whisper softly. It rips through your comfort until you're awake. And that's what's happening now. Everything that's making you uneasy, everything that's turning your stomach, everything that feels off, it's not paranoia. It's preparation. It's your warning before the real storm hits. You ever notice how the people you trust the most start acting different right before everything changes? How conversations that used to flow start to feel forced. How their smiles start hiding something. That's not coincidence. That's clarity slowly revealing itself. You just don't want to see it because seeing it means accepting that the story you wrote in your head is ending. You built your peace around people who were never meant to stay. You gave your energy to those who only needed it for a season. And now the season is shifting. The temperature's dropping. But you're still standing outside, pretending it's summer. You know what happens when you ignore warnings. The universe stops whispering and starts shouting. It takes away your distractions one by one until you have no choice but to face what you've been avoiding. Your phone goes quiet. Your plans fall through. The people you used to lean on disappear. Not because they hate you, but because their part in your story is over. But humans, we hate endings. We'd rather stay in pain than face the unknown. We call it loyalty, but it's fear wearing a noble face. You're afraid that if you let go, nothing will replace what you lose. But that's the trick. The warning doesn't take without giving. It just asks you to let go before it gives you something better. You can feel it already, can't you? That tension between what you know you should do and what you're scared to do. The late night thoughts that whisper, you can't stay here forever. The moments when everything around you feels too small, too fake, too heavy. That's your soul getting louder. That's the warning turning into a demand. You can't silence it with noise anymore. The music, the scrolling, the pretending. It doesn't drown it out like it used to. Because once the truth decides to wake you up, it won't let you rest until you move. Maybe you've been betrayed recently. Maybe something didn't work out the way you thought it would. Maybe life feels like it's closing in on you from every direction. But what if that's not punishment? What if it's protection? What if the rejection that broke your heart was actually the thing that saved your life? You don't see it now. But one day you'll realize the thing that hurt you most was the reason you survived. You'll look back and laugh at how hard you fought to stay in a place that was slowly destroying you. That's how the warning works. It hurts you just enough to wake you up before it's too late. There's always that moment before it all collapses, when everything feels eerily calm. The world feels distant, time slows down, and a small part of you knows something is about to change. You feel it in your bones, but you can't explain it. That's not fear. That's awareness. That's the moment when you can still turn back, still make a choice, still rewrite what happens next. But most people wait until the chaos arrives before they act. They wait for the pain to become unbearable before they finally move. And by then, it's too late. The damage is done, and all they can do is survive it. So here you are, standing at that line between what's familiar and what's necessary. Everything inside you is screaming for comfort, but the warning is clear. Comfort is the trap. It keeps you asleep while the fire burns around you. You don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. You already know. The silence around you isn't empty. It's loaded. It's waiting for your decision. You can listen now, or you can learn later. But you can't say you weren't warned. Arrogance is the sweetest poison. It doesn't burn when you swallow it. No, it tastes good. Smooth, intoxicating, powerful. It makes you feel untouchable. Like you've finally figured it all out. Like no one can tell you anything. You start walking differently, talking differently, convincing yourself that the warnings meant for others could never apply to you. Because you're smarter, stronger, wiser. You've survived worse. You think you can play with fire without getting burned. But that's the trick of arrogance. It blinds you right before the flames touch your skin. It convinces you the heat is just light, that danger is just a game, that your confidence is control. And then, in a blink, you're standing in the ashes, wondering how you didn't see it coming. You see, arrogance doesn't shout. It whispers. It hides in the small decisions you justify, in the little rules you break, because you think you're the exception. You tell yourself it's not wrong, it's just different. That the warning doesn't apply to you, because you know what you're doing. That's how it begins. Every downfall starts with a sentence that begins with, "I know what I'm doing." Those words have destroyed more people than bullets ever could. Because once you believe you're above the lesson has already begun. You ever notice how the most dangerous moment in life isn't when you're weak? It's when you think you've mastered everything. That's when the cracks start showing. That's when you stop listening. You stop checking your motives. You stop being grateful. You start believing that the world owes you something for all the pain you've endured. That's when humility packs its bags and leaves quietly. You don't even notice it's gone. And when it is, arrogance takes its place, smiling like an old friend. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel right. And that's what kills you, being right. People think arrogance is loud. They picture it in someone who brags, someone who shouts. But the real kind, it's quiet. It's in the way you ignore advice. It's in the way you roll your eyes when someone warns you. It's in how you dismiss the gut feeling that says, "Don't do this." That's arrogance dressed as logic. You convince yourself you're just being rational, just trusting yourself, just moving forward. But deep down, you know what you're doing. You're pretending not to hear the voice that's trying to save you. There's a moment, always a small one, before the fall where you could still stop. You could still turn around. But arrogance won't let you. It tells you to keep going, that stopping would make you look weak, that admitting you're wrong would make you lose face. So you keep walking, smiling, pretending everything's fine, even as the floor starts cracking beneath your feet. You hear it, but you tell yourself it's nothing. Just the sound of progress. Just the sound of your success echoing back. But the echo is hollow, because you've already stepped past the point of warning. Congratulations. If this message has reached you before October 6th, that means you're still ahead of the clock. You're still breathing in a world that's about to change. Still standing in that tiny window of time where choices still matter. Most people don't realize when they're living inside the calm before something big. They waste it scrolling, laughing, pretending everything's fine. But the truth, the countdown has already started. Every second is dripping away like blood from a cut you can't see yet. And you're one of the few who got the warning early. You got the message before the others even knew there was one. Funny how fate works. Some people never hear it, and some hear it just in time. Timing decides who survives and who watches. That's the game, isn't it? Everyone thinks it's about strength, luck, talent, whatever lie keeps them comfortable. But it's always been about timing. The right words spoken too late is useless. The right move made too early is suicide. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards precision. You can have all the power in your hands, all the brilliance in your head, but if you move at the wrong second, it all turns to ash. Timing separates the survivors from the spectators, the winners from the ones who clap for them. Most people don't even see time the way they should. They think it's something you have. They say things like, "I've got time," as if time is some obedient pet sitting by their side. But time isn't loyal. It doesn't belong to you. It's a predator. It's always moving, always devouring, and it never looks back. The moment you think you're in control of it, that's when it bites. The smart ones, the dangerous ones, don't try to own time. They learn to read it. They feel when the shift is coming, when the air changes, when the silence grows heavier. They can sense the second before something breaks. And when it does, they're already in position. Everyone else, they're still blinking, still thinking, still trying to figure out what happened. People call it luck, when someone moves at the perfect moment. Oh, they were lucky. No, they were awake. Luck is just what the lazy call other people's timing. The world throws signs every second, small warnings, tiny openings, perfect chances. But people miss them because they're too busy waiting for things to feel right. Timing isn't about comfort. It's about awareness. It's about moving when your instincts scream at you to wait, about striking when everyone else freezes. Survival isn't a reward for the strongest. It's the prize for the fastest to recognize the moment. And the cruelest part, the window always closes faster than you think. 1 second it's wide open, calling your name, and the next, it's gone. Blink, and you miss it. Hesitate, and you lose it. That's what most people never understand. They think they'll get another chance, another sign, another day. But time doesn't repeat itself. It mocks you by moving on. And when the door slams shut, all the what-ifs in the world won't open it again. You'll stand there with your excuses, your regrets, your perfect plans. And none of them will matter, because the moment that mattered already passed. Timing has no mercy. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care if you're scared or unsure or tired. The moment arrives, and it demands an answer. You either act, or you disappear into the background. The ones who survive are the ones who understand that hesitation is death disguised as safety. They feel the fear, but they move anyway. They don't wait for clarity. They create it by acting. And once they do, the world bends to them, because the world respects momentum more than perfection. The watchers, the ones who hesitate, they spend their lives analyzing, replaying, trying to understand what went wrong. They talk about timing like it's bad luck. But the truth is, timing gives you signs long before it strikes. You just have to be willing to see what others ignore. The shift in a friend's tone, the unease in the room, the opportunity hiding in a mistake. All signs, all warnings. But people don't look, because looking requires presence, and presence is uncomfortable. Everyone wants to live in the past or the future, but timing exists only in the now. The now is where decisions are made, where everything changes, where the world moves with or without you. You can tell who understands timing by the way they move. They don't rush, they don't drag. They glide through chaos as if they've seen it all before. They wait when waiting hurts. They act when silence cracks. And when they move, everything around them shifts. Like the world was waiting for that exact moment. That's real power, not money, not fame, not muscles. Timing. Knowing when to speak, when to strike, when to walk away. The world's full of corpses of people who almost made it, who were almost right, who were almost in time. Almost is the graveyard of those who thought they had more seconds to spare, and the few standing on top. They understood that time doesn't hand out second chances. It rewards the ones who see the pattern, who feel the pulse, who act before the sound even reaches their ears. Timing decides who walks away from the fire and who burns inside it, smiling, still wondering why it all went wrong. Warnings never come to everyone, only to the awake. The universe doesn't shout its secrets to the crowd. It whispers them to the ones who know how to listen. Most people are too busy drowning in noise, lost in the echo of their own distractions, blinded by screens, by comfort, by lies they tell themselves to make it through another day. They want signs, they beg for answers, they demand guidance. But when the warning finally comes, it slips right past them, quiet and sharp, because they were never truly awake to begin with. You ever notice how some people always seem to sense things before they happen? They walk differently. They watch differently. They don't talk as much. But when they do, it's like they've already seen the ending. Those are the awake ones. They pay attention to the things everyone else ignores. The pauses in speech, the tension in the air, the shift in the pattern. They don't need proof. They don't need explanations. They just know. Because warnings don't come in lightning or fire, they come in silence. And only those who've trained their mind to listen beyond the noise can catch them. The asleep, they laugh at warnings. They say, "You're overreacting," or "You're paranoid," because they can't see the storm building behind the calm. They mistake peace for safety. They believe if they close their eyes, the danger disappears. But ignorance doesn't protect. It invites destruction. The warning isn't there to comfort. It's there to prepare. But how can you prepare for something you refuse to believe exists? That's why most people get hit by life, like it's a surprise attack. They weren't blind by chance. They were blind by choice. The awake don't wait for disaster to knock. They feel it long before it arrives. They can sense when something in the world goes off balance. They might not have the answers, but they trust the tension. They don't call it superstition. They call it instinct sharpened by pain, by experience, by watching others fall asleep and never wake up again. When the warning comes, they don't question it, they move. They shift. They act while others laugh, and when the smoke clears, the difference between the awake and the asleep becomes painfully clear. The thing about warnings is that they're not meant to be pretty. They don't arrive with comfort or certainty. They come wrapped in unease, in the feeling that something's wrong, even when everything looks fine. It's the way the world tests who's paying attention. The warning isn't the storm. It's the breeze before it, the quiet that feels too quiet, the flicker of doubt that creeps into your gut. The awake feel that, and they don't ignore it. They respect it. Because they've learned that ignoring small warnings leads to bigger disasters. People say they want truth, but what they really want is reassurance. Truth doesn't reassure, it disrupts. It wakes you up, violently, like cold water thrown in your face. And that's why so few can handle it. When a warning arrives, it demands change. It demands that you move, that you break from your comfort, that you abandon the illusion that everything will just work out. The asleep cling to that illusion until it drowns them. The awake, they let go before the tide hits. They don't fight the wave. They ride it. And there's another thing. Warnings don't repeat themselves. They appear once in a flicker, and then they're gone. If you missed it, it's not coming back. You don't get to rewind life to catch the whisper you ignored. That's what separates the watchers from the survivors. The awake are always scanning, always alert, not because they're paranoid, but because they've learned that the universe doesn't owe them clarity. If you want to survive, you have to earn your awareness. The warning might come as a feeling, a dream, a word overheard, a sudden sense of dread. Most people shrug it off. They call it coincidence. The awake call it a message, and that message, once recognized, becomes their weapon. They don't panic, they prepare. They start moving pieces before anyone else knows there's even a game being played. By the time others realize what's happening, the awake are already miles ahead, calm, watching, waiting for the rest to catch up or burn trying. Being awake isn't comfortable. It's lonely. You see too much, feel too much, understand too deeply how fragile everything is. But that's the price of awareness. You can't unsee what you've seen, and you can't go back to sleep once you've heard the whisper. And yet, that's the edge that keeps the awake alive. The warning doesn't scare them. It sharpens them. It reminds them that safety is an illusion, that the world is a game of observation, that only the ones who notice before the explosion get to tell the story afterward. So when a warning finds you, when the whisper reaches your ear before the world falls apart, don't take it lightly. It didn't come to everyone. It found you for a reason. Because not everyone deserves to be warned. Only the awake do. The clock doesn't tick for decoration, it's a threat. Every click, every tiny sound it makes, is a reminder that something is slipping away, something you can't ever get back. People treat time like wallpaper, something that just exists in the background, something you don't have to think about. They wear watches. They hang clocks on walls. They check their phones 1,000 times a day. But none of it means they understand what it's actually saying. That sound, that quiet rhythmic tapping, it's not keeping you company. It's warning you. It's whispering that the world is moving on, with or without you. Every second is a deal. You trade it for something, whether you realize it or not. Some people trade it for money, some for comfort, some for nothing at all. They throw their time away like it's endless, like there will always be another hour, another day, another chance. But the clock doesn't care what you believe. It just keeps counting down. You can ignore it, drown it out with noise. Fill your life with distractions. But time doesn't stop just because you're pretending it's not there. It's patient. It doesn't need to shout. It just waits for you to run out. You ever really listen to a clock in the middle of the night? That sound, that slow, deliberate rhythm, it's alive. It doesn't speed up. It doesn't slow down. No matter how much you beg it to. It's not on your side. It's reminding you that you're temporary. That all your plans, all your dreams, all your excuses are dying 1 second at a time. You think you have control, but you don't. The only real control you have is how you spend what's left. And most people waste that, waiting for the right time. That never comes. The right time doesn't exist. The clock isn't waiting for you to be ready. It's waiting to bury you. The funny thing is, people don't start listening to the clock until it's almost done ticking. When the doctor says, not much time left. When the betrayal finally hits. When the opportunity slips away. That's when they finally hear it. That's when the ticking becomes deafening. Because the sound never changed. They just never cared to notice it before. And by then, it's too late. The threat has already been fulfilled. The time they thought they owned was already spent. The clock doesn't lie. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't care who you are, how rich, how powerful, how clever. It treats everyone the same. That's what makes it terrifying. You can cheat people, you can cheat systems, you can cheat yourself. But you can't cheat time. It's the one enemy that never blinks, never stops, never negotiates. It just moves forward, slicing your life into smaller and smaller pieces until there's nothing left to cut. The clever ones, the ones who see the threat for what it is, they don't waste time fighting it. They use it. They turn every tick into a warning, every second into a move. They don't wait for things to happen. They make them happen. They understand that every delay, every moment of hesitation, is another piece of life surrendered to the clock's teeth. They live fast, not because they fear death, but because they refuse to let time steal from them quietly. The clock has this cruel sense of humor. When you're young, it moves slow, teasing you with patience. But the moment you start to understand how little you have, it speeds up. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and suddenly the future you talked about is already gone. You'll tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow isn't guaranteed. The clock never promised you that. Every second is borrowed. You don't own a single one. People like to say, time heals. No, it doesn't. Time erases. It doesn't fix the wounds. It just buries them under more seconds until you forget how deep they were. Time doesn't care about your healing, your regrets, your pain. It only cares about progress. And progress isn't kind. It keeps moving with or without you. The ones who understand that don't wait to be ready. They act in the middle of the chaos because they know waiting is just another name for dying slower. The clock doesn't tick for decoration. It's not background noise. It's the sound of your life unraveling, second by second, while you sit there thinking you have more time. You don't. No one does. The clock is a predator dressed like a friend, smiling as it takes everything from you, one heartbeat at a time. People say destiny will find you, but that's a lie told by the lazy, by the comfortable, by the ones who are afraid to move until someone pushes them. Destiny doesn't knock politely on your door and ask if you're ready. It sneaks in, catches you off guard, rearranges your plans, and dares you to respond. But most people don't. They freeze. They hesitate. They wait for a perfect sign, for the universe to confirm that it's safe. Safe. That word again. It ruins more lives than failure ever could. Because while you're waiting for safety, destiny gets bored and walks away, looking for someone with the courage to move in the dark. You see, opportunities don't shout. They whisper. They don't show up dressed in gold. They look like problems, like pain, like endings. That's why most people miss them. They think destiny comes with applause, with certainty, with a guarantee of success. But destiny shows up as loss, heartbreak, rejection, humiliation. It shows up when everything falls apart and you're forced to choose between staying broken or rebuilding from the ashes. And in that chaos, that's where you find out who you really are. There's a moment, somewhere between the fall and the rise, when everything feels impossible. That's the moment destiny watches you closest. It's not about how loud you scream, how much you cry, or how deep the pain goes. It's about one thing: do you move? Do you take a step when the ground beneath you is shaking? Do you speak when your voice trembles? Do you act when fear tells you to wait? Because destiny doesn't care about your comfort. It's testing your conviction. The ones who make it, they don't have some secret power. They just stop waiting for permission. They stop expecting the world to make sense. They stop trying to predict what's next and just dive into it, no matter how ugly, how uncertain, how cruel. Because deep down, they understand something others don't. Hesitation is the enemy. The more you think, the more you lose. The more you plan, the more you delay. And by the time you finally decide to act, the moment is gone, stolen by someone who didn't think twice. Destiny doesn't reward the smartest or the most talented. It rewards the bold, the ones who jump before they're ready, the ones who risk looking foolish, the ones who are willing to be misunderstood, mocked, doubted. Because destiny loves chaos. It loves to see who can move through the storm without losing focus. It hides behind uncertainty, waiting to see who has the nerve to walk through it anyway. Most people wait for clarity before acting. But the truth, clarity only comes after you move, not before. Have you ever noticed how life seems to test you right before something changes? It's almost cruel, isn't it? Right before the breakthrough, everything falls apart. You lose people, you lose peace, you lose control. That's not punishment, it's preparation. It's the universe stripping away everything that's too small for the next chapter. But you don't see it that way when you're in it. You see it as betrayal. You call it unfair. You want to quit. That's exactly what the test is designed to do, to see if you'll surrender before the door opens. The irony is, destiny doesn't care about your timing. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It doesn't care if you're tired, broken, scared, or uncertain. When it's time, it's time. And if you don't answer, someone else will. You'll watch someone else live the life that was meant for you, simply because they had the nerve to move when you hesitated. And you'll tell yourself it wasn't meant to be. But deep down, you'll know the truth. It was. You just didn't move fast enough. There's a trap in thinking you'll get another chance, that you'll recognize the moment next time. But life doesn't recycle opportunities. It replaces them. The ones who act become unrecognizable in a year. The ones who wait stay stuck in the same place, telling the same stories about what they almost did. Almost. That word is the graveyard of potential. The world is full of people who almost became something. They almost tried, almost changed, almost listened. But almost doesn't count. Destiny doesn't reward almost. So, when the moment comes, and it always does, you'll feel it before you understand it. That strange pull in your chest. That restless energy, that whisper telling you, now, don't overthink it. Don't ask for proof. Don't ask for signs. That feeling is the sign. That discomfort is the call. Because destiny doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It slips in quietly, disguised as chaos, daring you to see through the confusion and act anyway. If you hesitate, it moves on. If you answer, it changes everything. People keep thinking the world will give them a warning before it breaks them. They think there'll be a sign, a signal, something obvious telling them it's time to change. But the truth, the world doesn't warn you, it just hits you. One day, everything feels fine, and the next, you're standing in the ruins of what used to make sense. That's the moment most people panic. They scramble, they beg, they blame. But the ones who truly rise, they don't waste time crying over what collapsed. They look at the pieces and start building something new, something stronger, something untouchable. Because destruction isn't the end. It's the beginning of clarity. When the storm comes, you can't reason with it. You can't beg it to pass quietly. It doesn't care about your comfort or your plans. The storm's job is to strip away illusions, to expose the truth, to show you who's real and who was only there for the calm weather. People hate storms because they reveal too much. They show you the fragility of everything you trusted. The fake friends, the shallow love, the fragile confidence built on convenience. But that's the point. You can't step into power carrying dead weight. The storm clears your path for you, violently if it has to. Pain has a funny way of teaching you discipline. It doesn't whisper, it screams. And every time it hurts, it's asking you one question. Are you listening yet? Most people don't. They cover their ears with distractions, noise, fake smiles. They tell themselves it's fine, that it's temporary. But you can't heal in denial. You can't find peace pretending you're not bleeding. The moment you stop running from your pain, you start learning from it. That's when transformation begins. Not when things get better, but when you stop pretending they're fine. They say time heals everything, but that's another lie for the weak. Time doesn't heal, it hides. It buries the wound under routine, under noise, under fake laughter. But the wound stays there, waiting, rotting, whispering reminders at night. Healing doesn't come from waiting. It comes from confronting. You have to face the darkness that broke you, stare it in the eye, and take back what it stole. That's not easy. It's brutal. It's lonely. But it's necessary. Because if you don't, the pain will own you. It will control how you speak, how you love,